This is a brake caliper on a 1979 Spider Fiat 2000. This is a clean brake caliper. Actually, it's brand new. We just put it on. But while it's clean, I thought I'd take the opportunity to show folks that may be just as confused as I was on how to deal with these bad boys. So first of all, this is the caliper bracket here, and it wraps around the disc, and there's two bolts, one here and one in the back on the bottom, that hold the bracket onto the hub and sandwiches the disc, the rotor, I should say. And the caliper sits in this bracket. How does it sit in that bracket? Well, at first glance, it's not that obvious, but there's the caliper itself, and then there's a couple of plates, one on the top and one on the bottom, that ride inside the groove that is machined into the caliper and the bracket. And to get the caliper out, all you have to do is pull these four pins from all around the clips. And once you do that, there's little holes inside those plates, and you can, I'm going to say, you can simply slide them out. It's not all that easy, but if you take the tension off of the caliper by pushing it in, you can slide these out. So I grabbed some needle nose, and I'm just gonna pull that out and pull the bottom one out. And once you do that, you should be able to just lift the caliper out. Once you have the caliper out, you can replace your pads, and then you have these spring clips to deal with. And believe it or not, you know, these calipers were last replaced by a professional Fiat mechanic. And these clips were everywhere. There was one up here, and the other one was, you can see what I'm doing, that spring clip. There was one sandwiched between the caliper bracket and the caliper, and the one on the bottom was underneath the caliper, and the caliper was against the bracket. But these springs are springs. As I squeeze it, they're applying tension. So I don't understand why people hammer these bad boys in all sorts of directions and ways, because as far as I can tell, there's a way that they're supposed to go. The spring is supposed to act like a spring on the caliper and hold it in place and put tension on it, pushing it out towards the outside edge. With the plate sandwiched between the bracket and the caliper, the plate will take up that pressure. So I'm going to get an assistant to hold the camera here while I put this in, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right. So when you put this caliper in, these springs here, they move, but the way they rest up against the bracket makes you think that the caliper goes in like this. Get my pad loose in the back now. Hold on. Makes you think that the caliper goes in like this with the spring on the outside, but it doesn't. The proper way to do this is to situate the springs inside the caliper, and then as I press, focus down here, as I press, see how that spring eats the tension. So you take the plate and you press it in, and you can just slide that plate in there nice, no problems, no hassle, no hammers. And then up top, same thing. It's going to take a little bit more pressure, but you put the pressure on it, push it down and in, and this plate slides right in. No hammers, no screwdrivers, no problem. And then you find the little holes and push these clips back in. Make sure they're inside of the spring clip here, because these little bad boys are what keeps the plate from sliding out of position. So here is what I believe the proper assembly is. Caliper bracket, locking plate, caliper spring. The spring nestled in this little groove, the tension plate nestled in that little groove, and it's the same on the bottom. Bracket, plate, caliper, spring. And you can tell you've got it right because the spring acts like a... The lights are falling. The spring acts like a spring when you push on it. And that's what allows you to get it into place. The other point is when I put these calipers back together, the way that I found them, it was done by a professional, air quotes, mechanic that works on Fiat. The spring clip was on the other side of the plate, and it seemed to be put together any way that it would fit. The problem is, I took a photo of it, and I went to put it back together exactly the same way I found it. When I did that, it put so much tension that the hub wouldn't spin. It really wouldn't spin, and the caliper wasn't even fully assembled into the bracket yet. So we ran around the car, and we looked at all the other calipers that were set up exactly the way we found them when we took them off, and the spring pin was in different places, on the top or the bottom, and the front and the rear. And the rear hubs were spinning just fine, but the passenger side was tight. It took a lot of pressure just to get it to spin, but we figured, oh, that must be normal. It'll wear in. No, it's not normal, because the second we started to utilize these spring clips the way they're supposed to be utilized, and you assemble this, the hub spins just the way it should.
On all four.
On all four tires.